You are listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast with Maggie Green, episode number 347.
Welcome to the Cookbook Love Podcast, a podcast that celebrates cookbook readers, buyers, collectors, writers, and clubs. And now your host, cookbook author, culinary dietitian, and cookbook writing coach, Maggie Green.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're all doing well. Here we are in the first part of May, and this Saturday is the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby. Post time is at 6:57 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's the fastest 2 minutes in sports. If you like to watch a event that is very regional, very unique, and draws most recently in a lot of celebrities, tune in to the Kentucky Derby. Post time used to be when I was younger, maybe at 5:30. Gosh, it's getting to be like the Super Bowl. It seems to be late this year, but it's a great day, a lot of fun. Have had Derby parties over the years, cooked for Derby parties. My parents hosted parties. I've hosted parties. It was always a part of our growing up in our traditions here in Kentucky. And even when people who are from Kentucky move out of the state, or I had a neighbor who had a vacation home in Michigan, sister that lived in New York, sister in Baltimore, now a sister in Miami, they have had Derby parties. They always make it a part of what they do also. It's just something that gets in our blood. And we are going to be traveling this weekend visiting my husband's brother, but because they both grew up in Lexington also, I know that we will be watching the race and enjoying the Derby together. So I hope that you're all doing well today. We are going to have an interview today with a former mastermind student of mine named Sapna Punjabi. Back when I started doing cookbook coaching, I did private one-on-one coaching, and then I started a mastermind group for aspiring cookbook authors who wanted to get a traditional publishing contract. And the name of the mastermind was Hungry for a Cookbook. And Sapna was in the mastermind, and wonderful to work with her. And I can't tell you how exciting it is to see yet another one of my former students have a traditional publishing book deal and a book that's been published. Jan Brandenburg a few weeks ago was another student of mine, and now Sapna. So Sapna's book, Dal Chawal, 85 Vegetarian Indian Recipes Combining the Power of Dal and Rice, is a book that is very special to Sapna, as you will hear during our interview. Sapna is a culinary wellness specialist, registered dietitian, Ayurvedic practitioner, and creator of Bee Spiced, based in Dallas, Texas. She was born and raised in Mumbai, India, and moved to the United States to pursue her graduate studies. She combines in her book her Indian roots with her Western nutritional training to empower people with skills for easy and effortless cooking, helping them achieve wellness through everyday food and spices. In her new book, Dal Chawal, Sapna helps us discover authentic Indian comfort food through the timeless combination of dal and rice. Dal and rice together form the foundation of home-style Indian vegetarian cooking. Dal is the Hindi word commonly used to describe all forms of pulses, including dried beans, lentils, peas, and whole and split legumes. Chawal is the Hindi word for rice, which is the perfect soulmate for dal. Not only a delicious harmony together, but they form a completely balanced and nutritious meal. This comprehensive vegetarian Indian cookbook features 85 recipes that form the foundation of traditional Indian home cooking. Today on the podcast, we talk all about Sapna's pre-publication work that she did to come up with her concept for her book. We talk all about her writing of her proposal and manuscript for her book, and just how much it means to her to honor her culinary traditions in the publication of her new beautiful cookbook. So without further delay, let's dive into this interview with Sapna Punjabi. Hi, Sapna. Welcome to the Cookbook Love Podcast.
Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much for having me here.
So excited to reconnect with you, to talk to you. And before we dive in, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you again, Maggie. It's so lovely to connect back with you. I'm Sapna Punjabi. I am the brand new cookbook author of my cookbook, Dal Chawal, that was released on April 8th. Apart from a cookbook author, I wear many hats. I am a registered dietitian, an Ayurvedic practitioner, a solo mom, a culinary entrepreneur. My passion lies in all things food and culinary wellness, and I'm based in Dallas, Texas.
Wonderful. And yes, we have, we're reconnecting today. I know Sapna from the programs that I teach, met her, what year did we decide?
18 is
2018?
what I think,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And you've had a
I
journey to the book where we are today. Like the published book is out. You've had a release party. You've been to New York to promote it. The book is here, but this has been a journey to this book. So I think what we ought to do to get started is kind of tell everybody a little bit about that journey, where you ended up, what inspired you to write this book, and kind of take us back to where you were 7 years ago.
Oh gosh. I mean, you said it correctly, Maggie. It has been a journey. I would also say it's been a transformation because I went through personal transformation through this book. And, you know, and I remember when I was a part of your mastermind, I don't know if you still call it that, a mastermind group, and I was just like so impatient. I'm like, no, I wanna have a book out. Can I do self-publish? Should I do traditional? I was just like so impatient. And I'm like, when you said to me, I think years ago, oh, it's a journey, it takes time. And when I would hear even the word 3 years, it would feel so daunting and so long. But you're right. It's been 7 years. And at that point, I remember I was playing around with three different concepts. And you probably were the first one who formally heard my concept. I don't think we nailed down Dal Chawal at the time. But of course, as I said, I wear different hats. Life took a different spin. Um, you know, I also have a different last name now in 7 years. I was divorced through this process. So a lot of transformation that happened, but I had to really think hard. I made a decision that when I was losing control about a lot of things in my life, and I knew writing a cookbook was like this, my calm and my chaos around me. And I knew I wanted to do something that is my story, my identity. It kind of gave me my creative refuge. So I put everything down, and while the life around me was burning, I was also like laying ground for like the soil was kind of having a rebirth and laying new roots down. And I knew I wanted to write Dal Chawal. It was very crystal clear because when I made my list of who my audience should be, what am I trying to achieve, what is the whole why behind the book, Dal Chawal kind of fit the bill for so many of those questions I had. It was a all vegetarian. I'm a lifelong vegetarian, so it truly encompasses my way of eating. So people are through my culinary entrepreneurship, and I also have a line of products, spice products. People are very much interested now in plant forward proteins. So like, okay, Dal Chawal kind of checks that box. It's a completely gluten-free book. So it kind of checks that box. Budget friendly, 2018 is what we said, but then pandemic happened in that time, right? We all survived that. While all the other changes in our life, the whole world kind of shifted. And the food budget for families is different than it used to be. And so Dal Chawal kind of checks that box for budget conscious people. I am also an Ayurveda practitioner, and I felt I collect cookbooks, and I see that there are some wonderful books written, Ayurveda books written, but when I look at them, those books are not written by an Indian person, at least not many. There are some beautiful books contributed if in the Ayurveda space, and I wanted it to be authentic Indian. I wanted the recipes to be authentic Indian. And I also wanted to weave in Ayurvedic wisdom through every pages in a very practical, accessible way, so it doesn't sound too foreign. Because it is foreign for a lot of people who are not used to that science. So also, as I said, I'm a solo mom. My kitchen looks different than my mom's kitchen growing up. And I'm here in America and I don't have the luxury of time. So I wanted this book to also hold on to tradition, but it is also effortlessly modern to modern taste, modern palate. So it kind of really checked all the boxes. And that's when the journey began of the important document that you actually were the first one to help me understand the importance of writing a cookbook proposal. And that's how it started.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, when you have an idea or a vision for maybe 3 different books, in order to write the proposal, you have to settle on one of those. What was it like to actually narrow it down to this topic, to this concept, and settle on what you decided to write about?
It was again something that you had you would repeat it often, is like, don't be too broad in the rush to try to please everyone. You actually end up not pleasing anyone. So I make it as specific as possible. And so Dal Chawal, while it's a broad category, yet it is very specific. Dal literally means pulses, which is beans and lentils and legumes. So it's dal, and chawal means rice. So it's like as basic as dal, as these two foundational staple ingredients. But also, I was very much focused that this book. I may be getting ahead here, but
That's
the
okay.
title had to be Dal Chawal.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it, how my publisher actually guarded this title for a couple of years and we never even shared it to the world. Because when for billions of Indians, the word dal chawal is more than rice and beans. It is an emotional connection of coming home. When you say to someone, it's like, Mom, what have you made for dinner tonight? It's a weeknight. I'm sorry, I don't have time. It's just going to be dal chawal tonight. We have that comfort meals. We have that easy meals. If you are having a fever, I know exactly, if I close my eyes, if I'm feeling low, I have a vision, a core memory of my mom's dal that I want when I'm not feeling good, or a bowl of khichdi that is nourishing. So it is a very emotional connection to the word dal chawal. And I am so fortunate. And when we started doing the searches, it is such a common term, but there's not a book in the cookbook world that is titled Dal Chawal. There is titles of dal and there's titles of rice, but Dal Chawal was truly meant for me. I believe that.
Yeah, I believe it was too. And I think it's so fascinating that you were brave enough to narrow this down to the pulses and the lentils and the rice, and yet it's still so much amazing information with a narrow topic, and what a beautiful title. And I remember you struggling with this, and I remember most of my students do, because like you said, how can I write about something that seems like it's really squeezing it in, but it just makes it so much easier to talk about. But that said, there's so much in this book, because it's not just, like you said, the pulses and the lentils and the rice. There is so much more than that. I want you to take us on a little bit of a journey through your expertise with these 2 ingredients, what they mean, and where this book can take people if they start to cook from it.
Well, it has been a journey, and I'm such a visual person. So when I narrowed down the concept of dal chawal, I had so many, right? I just told you all the different hats that I wear, all the different the Eastern wisdom. It has to be honest, it has to be authentic, it has to be tradition, it has to be modern, it has to be easy, it has to be practical. I want Ayurveda every pages. I wanted it to be for me, it's like there is a recipe and then there is life, right? I don't want people to go to the grocery store three times to follow my recipe. So in every recipe there is substitutions, there's alternates. Even if you make a mess, actually it transforms into something else. So don't worry, it's okay, because cooking is a connection. It's a form of love. So I actually created, like like a grip for my recipe layout. There was, if you look at every single recipe, there is a soak time, there is a head note, there is there are the ingredients. Every recipe has tips, every recipe has Ayurvedic wisdom at the bottom. And it was a challenge to pack all of this. And I really hope people don't feel overwhelmed, because I want this to be more than a cookbook. And I am being so grateful that I'm getting all the Amazon reviews pouring in, and people are recognizing that. I get comments from some on DMs that someone someone who follows me, their daughter is in nutrition school, and the daughter tells the mom, this is not a cookbook. It is a reference book. It is a resource book. So, I mean, that is just warming my heart that people are recognizing that. And so I created my proposal. I wanted the chapters to be laid out differently too, because if you look majority, I would say a good majority of cookbooks, the layout of menus, so the layout of chapters are based on menu categories like appetizers and starters, or drinks and desserts and entrees. I didn't want that. I didn't want that. My hope was, I want the reader to buy and invest in just one bag of dal, get familiarized with that dal or pulse or lentil, whatever you want to call it. So in India, we call all of these terms loosely is dal. Mm-hmm. So just, you'll see me using this word often. Dal is used to describe an ingredient and also a dish. So, so that's dal. So I wanted the reader to invest in one bag of dal, explore that dal, get familiar with that dal, and build their Dal Chawal pantry, one bag at a time. And so the chapters are laid out as mung. And now just, we call it mung. Here in the Western world, it's usually said mung. But mung family, again, has three varieties. I have 3 jars of mung. I have the mung bean. I have the split mung that is with the skin. And then I have the split yellow mung dal, which is the mung bean split into half without the skin. So I had the whole, thing. I'm sure you will appreciate that, being a fellow dietitian, the whole type A personality. I had a whole grid system that, okay, now there are 3 dals under mung. And now how many recipes should I dedicate to this chapter? Coming to chana, I have the white garbanzo bean, the brown garbanzo beans that is Indian. I had to actually give up on a few things, because I wanted this book to be tight enough. But I could easily write like another book, because I felt like I had to leave out several different beans. And so I kind of categorized it by type. So people kind of can view it differently, and not just like, oh, I want to make a dal dessert. No, I have 10 minutes today. And that's why every recipe has a soak time. So if you have 10 minutes to soak, choose a recipe with 10 minutes of soak time versus something that requires you overnight soak. So that was like my journey, is how this book could be useful. I have a college, my son is in college, my daughter is a freshman in high school, and they were very much a part of this process too. I mean, every single recipe was approved by them. I had to actually discuss with them. It's like, not everything that I make needs to be there. I have to incorporate regional Indian cuisine. So that's another kind of thing that I had to wear. I was responsible, because my fear is, what if an auntie on the street stops me, an Indian auntie, and says, I'm from eastern part of India and we eat dal there, and you did not include any dals from our region, right? Because Indian cuisine is so diverse. And this is home style Indian cuisine. It is not the cuisine found in restaurants. So I had to dig deeper in my core memories through my travels, through the friends. I was born and raised in Mumbai, India, so it's like New York. So thankfully, my mom has exposed us through her cooking, through a variety of different regional Indian cuisine and recipes. So it had to be a good balance of recipes from all different parts of India. Yeah. It also had to be easy, because my kids are going to be using it.
So I understand from reading the book that your mom had a lot to do with this.
Yes. Yes, she is my first teacher, and I'm just waiting. The cover photo, the hands are my mom's, and she's in India right now. I'm waiting for her to come. She's coming next month, and I don't think she's held a book. This book is released in. It has a global release, so it's available in U.S., UK, Australia, and India. It's available in India, but I'm not sure if they have been delivered yet. So I'm waiting for her to see her reaction when she holds this book.
Yeah.
But yeah, she tested every single recipe, every photograph that you see. The food was cooked by my mom and me. And, it was so, she was, that food that you see in every photo, her blessing and her hands were there in all of those cooking.
Sweet. So beautiful. Yeah. I can't wait till she sees it. And I'm sure she's going to love it and be very touched. And I love that you said that the focus is on home style cuisine. And like you said, the emotional connection of home with the recipes that are in here. And that is different than what people maybe would see if they go to an Indian restaurant. But there's more to that also because of the Ayurveda. Tell us a little bit about the role that the Ayurveda plays in this and how you're helping people balance wellness and flavor and authenticity in all of these recipes.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that. So Ayurveda topic itself, we can be here for an hour, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do my best to kind of concise everything. First of all, I came to this country to do my graduate studies in nutrition and dietetics. I was born and raised in Mumbai, India, and my mom, just like every mom in India or every home that cooks traditional Indian cuisine, they don't say it out loud every day, every meal that, oh, I am making an Ayurvedically balanced meal. But that's exactly what they're doing, right? Because traditional Indian cuisine comes from Ayurvedic principles, which is oldest practicing indigenous medicine in the world that dates back at least 5,000, some texts say even 10,000 years ago. And it is practiced till today, right? If I'm making dal chawal using those principles or traditional cuisine, I'm practicing Ayurveda. But I discovered formally Ayurveda in this country, I would say about 15, 16 years ago, where I was a clinical dietitian as a neonatal diet. I practiced as a neonatal dietitian in Dallas. And I discovered formally Ayurveda through a neonatologist in our discussion, who seemed very curious, and he kind of sowed the seed of curiosity in my heart, and I went on my quest to study Ayurveda formally. And there were so many aha moments through the process as I was becoming a certified Ayurvedic practitioner. It was basically everything that my mom would do, and I would question her. And I was like, but mom, why am I not supposed to eat this today? And she says, because I said so. She wouldn't give me a scientific explanation, but studying Ayurveda scientifically gave me those answers. And it is such a practical science. And I often tell people in my talks, you don't have to dress a certain way, you don't have to cook Indian to practice Ayurveda. It is basically living in harmony with nature. It is the word Ayurveda is made up of two words. Ayur means life, and Veda means science or knowledge. It truly is a science of life. So I wanted, again, I did not want it to be so extreme, Ayurveda, in my book that people were like, oh my God, this is not practical. This is a little too much for me. It's too heavy. I wanted in every single recipe. Of course, before the recipes start, I've given you a little taste of Ayurveda concepts for anyone that wants to kind of, again, get curious about it so they can go on their own quest and their own journey. But at least I've given you the concepts before the recipes begin. And then each recipe, hey, it's a summer, if you're in Texas, it's the season of Pitta, which is fire. Maybe swap your red chili powder with something else. Maybe do it half. Or, if you're in the spring season, swap that for black pepper and things like that. So just something very basic, very practical that people can make those changes right there and there if they choose to cook that recipe. So that was the approach I took, where I wanted it to be practical and accessible for everyone.
Yeah. And I think also there's something you talk about in here called the six tastes in
Mhm.
Ayurvedic. And I, I can't help but think then that people can read through this chapter, but these are probably already incorporated in a lot of ways in the recipes that you developed and created for this book.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. Again, I tried my very best that everybody, because of size and constraints, it has to fit in one page. But I could write a whole paragraph, a whole Ayurvedic head note for every single recipe. But
Yeah.
I had to really restrict myself, and that's why the early front matter has the Ayurveda concepts, and there are six Ayurvedic tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, astringent. And I've given you some examples. And if for those who are really interested, as I said, this book is more than a cookbook. It is a
Yeah.
reference guide
Yeah.
or a resource book. It kind of helps you plan your meals in a smart way. I often tell people in my trainings, if you study Ayurveda, it's a journey of self-discovery. It helps you shop better in a grocery store. It helps you order better if you're in a restaurant. And you're not like on autopilot, where you're ordering iced tea while wearing a winter coat, you know, which
Yes.
is kind of very common in the southern states, right?
Yeah.
People love their iced tea while they are shivering and
Yeah.
they're having layers on.
Yeah.
So things like that, as basic as that. So I kind of weave those in, as
Yeah.
I said, in bite-sized information.
And one more thing that you layered into this also is you talk about the cosmic influences of dal and rice. Tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about that.
So food, as I said, when I said the word Ayurveda, the word Ayur means life. And from the Eastern wisdom perspective, life is not only physical life, it is your emotional life, it is your mental life, it is also your spiritual life.
Mhm.
And food is an integral part of our connection to our spirituality. And as I said, this book is also for the future generations. And there's a page that I wanted to include. If you are and also if you are studying Ayurveda, you're not only studying about food and herbs, you're studying about astrology. So as an Ayurvedic practitioner, you get trained in all of these because it's a science of life. There is a whole spiritual aspect to it. And there is astrology. There's also something called vastu, or that's where feng shui comes from, like the directional the room and how it is laid out and designed. And so gemology is a part of that. So there's such a broad and a very deep science that you can't learn in 1 year. I'm still learning. But coming to that page where I talk about the cosmic influence, there are different dolls. If you, again, it is a subtle science too, right? It's subjective. And sometimes it may be hard for an American or a Western mind because we are so focused on objective data and quantifying everything that we kind of forget there's also a qualitative aspect to things. And from an Ayurveda perspective, different dolls are connected to different days of the week.
Hmm.
They're connected to different planetary, there's planetary connection. And the image that I have actually that took so much of questioning and talking to different priests and researching, calling my Ayurvedic friends and teachers, because that is called Navagraha Puja. So that is how we lay out in a service where we appease. It is a service done to appease all the 9 planet or celestial bodies. So this is a very important puja or service that all Hindus are familiar with. And you do it just for peace, for everything, for all the different bodies around us, celestial bodies. And you often do it when you are, as in housewarming service, when you when you go into a new house and you purchase a new house, whether it's a newly constructed or if somebody else had lived there, you want that energy space to be cleared and you want peace and harmony to be welcomed in that space. So I wanted, and those are the 9 grains, and several of them are dals in there, and there's rice, and I've kind of connected. So that is a layout, and it was a gift, I thought, for me personally. if my children ever need that, they can refer to my book and they know that it was well researched. But also for any other families who want to do this puja and who may recognize it, that is the layout. And the colors are associated, there's a specific color underneath the specific grain, which is connected to the celestial bodies.
Yeah, it's a beautiful photo. And also it reminds me then of the color that you weave through the pages as well, which is random, but the yellows and the greens and the blues and the ways that the pages actually are not all just white.
Yes, I loved it. And I have to give full credit to my publishing and design team on that. Actually, my publisher. So the request or the vision I had for this book, I cannot thank them enough that everything that I have communicated to them as a part of my wishes and vision, they listened and they tried their very best to integrate it very thoughtfully and mindfully.
Yeah.
So the cue or the take I had of this book, I wanted this book to be bold, vibrant, and I wanted it to be timeless and classic. That was the look I had. And I very consciously made an effort that this book should not look like exotic India vibe. Although I love paisleys, I love the ornate illustrations. I mean, for those who follow me on Instagram know I love Indian textiles. But I did not want this book to be that, because the two benchmarks I had was this. If I give this book to my mom or any grandma or any mother, Indian mom, I feel proud to hand it to them because it's as authentic and traditional in terms of recipe and content and stories. But it also have to be cool for my Gen Z kids. And it shouldn't feel like, oh my God, this is a little too Indian. I'm not gonna, figure this out. It's too much for me. I wanted it to be clean. But so that's what those colors did. And I have to give full credit to them. And when they showed me this design, I'm like, wow, I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really great the way it's laid out, all the color, and it's very inviting, and the photography. So I really agree with you about that. And I think that's one thing that's really neat about working with a traditional publisher is the design team that they have and the way that they can bring these books to life in ways that we sometimes can't even imagine.
Absolutely. And, I have to give full kudos to Hardy Grand.
Yeah.
You will see that I have laid out in my acknowledgements, even before my book was born, it was my proposal, going back to my proposal. I used and I had some great teachers, a little plug here again for you. You're one of those teachers that taught me the importance of a cookbook proposal. So the proposal cover had a plate that had half dal and half rice, as you see on the final cover. I had always visioned that's how it's going to be. I mean, how literal can I be? There will not be any heavy garnishes.
Yes.
There would not be too dressy. There won't be any fancy plates. Dal Chawal. That's it. That's how I had done it. And that's the vision that I transferred to the cover. And, from the so many different requests that I had that in my brain were non-negotiables, but they celebrated those non-negotiables, my publishing team and the design team. And this book was not diluted in my voice, in the vision that I had, how I wanted the pictures to be. From the props, everything was shot in my home, and the props were about 80% of the props. More than 80% of the props are mine. These are my cups and my plates that we eat in. And I wanted the photography to be not heavy styled.
Yeah.
Because it's home style. I wanted this for anyone to feel like I can do this.
Yeah.
That's what she wants me to do.
Yeah.
So,
and you're doing an excellent job, like even describing that. I think people that are listening to this will hear that message loud and clear, that if you've shied away from books maybe like this before, this could very well be the book that introduces you to a whole new world of pulses, lentils, rice. And then we've one more thing we got to talk about, because this is the name of your business too, is the spices, and how you have worked in the spice conversation, because that's a whole topic on its own also.
Yes, let's sign up for another call, right?
Exactly. You say
Right.
that spices are nature's edible gemstones. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your love affair with spices?
Absolutely. So, as I've shared, I'm a first generation immigrant that came on this American soil to pursue graduate study in Western nutrition and dietetics. And, I've always been a lifelong vegetarian. And as a or student on campus, or even as a dietitian even though I was a dietitian in a big hospital here in Dallas after I started my journey in the clinical world, my choices for vegetarian options were very limited. And I can't have salad every day. I'm sorry. So I would take food from home. And every time I would open my box, the spices, right, would be a great conversation starter in all those boardrooms and all those office lunches that we had. And I've realized I would every time it became almost like expected that every time before I eat, I have to talk about my food to people around me. And people are just so curious about spices. It's so mystifying. And of course, over the years, there's tons of evidence-based research supporting the use of turmeric. And so when I moved from my clinical world and took a leap of faith into the world of being an entrepreneur, a culinary entrepreneur, I wanted to be that mantra. I wanted people to be spiced and not. So I kind of joke with my mantras like, "Don't be bland in life, be spiced." But it's deeper than that. I feel, and if people who have kind of spent time on my website, you know, the word spice is not only just spice, it's also adding diversity to a table, adding diversity to a plate. So it's kind of deeper for me. And I think spices are a great introduction to all of these conversations. People are very intrigued by them. So I, talk about spices, and then I very soon realize people want to taste, food is a very sensory experience. So I couldn't just talk about food and not let people experience it. So very soon that led into me launching my spice brand and my products that I get to sell at my local farmers market here in Dallas. And I slowly started building my community around spice and culinary wellness. And the hunger just kept getting more and more, right? Then I have a YouTube channel. People's like, "I'm not in Dallas, but my sister wants to come to your classes. She can't come. She lives in California," right? So it became into YouTube. Then COVID helped me pivot into virtual cooking classes. But I find Bee Spice was my way, it laid the foundation of me creating my community.
Yeah.
That also helped me, like, how do I collect all these recipes, my culture, and translate into a book, which now becomes the spokesperson of who I am. My book is my spokesperson of my culture, my identity, my food, so much more than me.
Yes, yes, that's for sure. And you did build that brand did you build it before you proposed the
Yes.
book?
Yes,
Yeah.
I had Bee Spiced. The company was called a different name. I rebranded it to Bee Spiced in about actually 2017, 2018. But I had my community even before that with a different company name. Um, but I, but again, um, I don't have a big platform. I still don't. So I am what is labeled as a micro influencer, which I actually hear is actually even more hotter than a mega influencer now these days. The followers are more organic. It is the community that you build, and and I'm so grateful for my community to show up for me. And you had said in the introduction, I had this magical launch event here at the Crow Collection of Asian Art Museum in Dallas on the day of my release date, April 8th, and seeing people walk in the museum to support this first time author, and about 100 people showing up on a Tuesday night in downtown Dallas. I was beyond overwhelmed with gratitude and kindness. And so for those who don't have big platforms, I have to say that I don't think that was a deterrent to me. Um, but you just have to stay in your path and be truthful and, kind of focus on that.
That's right. That's right. And I think that you're exactly right about that. Not every cookbook author has a huge platform. They just don't. And it's because there are topics and people like you that are writing about things that um, your book's going to attract a lot of people that you probably have never even met yet. And that's the beauty of it. So there are publishers out there, there's agents out there that want to work with someone like you. So you had to make a transition, though, from being a cook for cooking for yourself and for your children to actually setting up these routines to write recipes that you could publish in your cookbook. Tell us a little bit about that transition for you.
That was hard, Maggie, because I learned cooking from my mom, and I don't know about other moms, but definitely Indian moms do not measure when they cook. And so it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I'm like, Mom, what is a little? And then I realized over the years, I cook like my mom and I don't measure. And so thankfully, Be Spiced, when through my brand, I would teach cooking classes, and I teach classes at my home and also at cooking schools here. And also I had to do it online virtual. It forced me to start measuring.
Mhm.
And then the publisher had an additional request. Since this book will have a global release, they wanted every majority of the ingredients also to be measured in metric. I'm like, I used to do that all the time. I was born in India, but I've completely lost touch of metric measurements because I love my cups and teaspoons now. But so it definitely was that to the majority of my time is like testing and retesting. And then I also had to hire, I am so grateful for that. I hired a professional recipe tester to test a few because I did not have the budget for every single recipe. Everything costs money, right? I did not have the budget for every single recipe to be tested by a professional tester, but I would highly recommend for whoever is writing a cookbook, at least select a diverse amount of recipes if your budget allows to do it, because that was very much a money well spent. And then what I also did was I kind of identified, I had a dozen sisters sprinkled over different parts of United States and actually beyond United States in different continents whose kitchens looks different, who came from different ethnicity, different cultural roots and cooking expertise backgrounds. And I learned so much from them. There were some recipes that didn't even make it into the manuscript because of some of their comments.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
oh,
right.
I would have never thought about that. So every single recipe was tested in some kitchen beyond mine. So that was definitely very, very useful for sure.
Yeah. And I think it does help you. Like you said, there's things that just intuitive to you, things you knew. But when someone else takes this recipe into their kitchen, that's different from yours. You really, truly do get to see what kind of success they have with the recipe or not. And that's the exact purpose of it. Because like you said, some things they don't make the cut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. And I'm like, oh, I get this. And so Cookbook is a very collaborative effort.
Yeah.
And so I was so grateful for so many of these. There are so many, I would say, apart from my son, I can't think of any other male energy in this book. There were a lot. It's a very heavy female energy driven book, and we love to share. We also love. We're not, I said I loved red lines all over my recipe testing document because I'm like, I need proof that you've tested this. You can't just say, oh yeah, good recipe. I'm like, no, show me a picture and show me all your notes.
Yeah.
So I think all that step is extremely valuable.
Yeah. How long were you actively working on writing the manuscript?
So as I shared or kind of gave you a little nudge, this book was actually delayed for publication because of me, because I was going through a transformation change. I was formally divorced through this process. So again, I have to give all credit to a loving, kind, compassionate, encouraging publishing house. My publisher, my editor, Jenny, and who stood by me like a rock. My agent, Sally, who stood by me like a my shining star in my corner and just supported me to let me kind of go through, navigate life and focus on the book, gave me some breathing room. But I would say a good 6 to 9 months of
Yeah.
putting my head down.
Yeah.
Putting
Yeah.
my head down and writing, active writing.
Yeah.
And
And once you
testing.
got into that flow, did you have any tips or routines or rituals that you found really worked for you that you would recommend to other people who are maybe thinking about doing the same thing?
And again, I may not be the ideal
That's
person to answer this because I'm just going to give you my real life. I'm a procrastinator. I'm a very bad procrastinator. I need hardcore deadlines, and I need deadlines over deadlines. If you give me 6 months to do something, I am going to do that in the last 6 days or 6 weeks or whatever, like how big the project is. So I perform very much under pressure, under stress. My best work comes out under that. But that's me. Please don't follow my advice. I'm just sharing my real life expertise. People told me as I was going through all the personal stuff, oh, find a routine, go for a walk, sit down and do meditation. None of that works. Schedule time in your calendar for writing. I'm sorry, it doesn't work for me. I'm a busy mom, a single. I was getting to be a solo mom, 2 different kids, mom life comes first. Everything else takes second role. But I was just so grateful. And I work at different times, nights versus early morning. So you find I'd say it's great to get all the different advices from people. I think it's very useful, but I always believe that do what works for you and delivers results.
Yeah.
And
I think that's so true because I may have the way I do it, and there might be a way I talk to people when they start, but it always comes down to, in the end, what works for you. And people may not write every day. They may only write once a week. They maybe do it for 12 hours and not 1 hour. I mean, it's so varied, but I love that you're willing to be honest about that because that is exactly the way it goes. You'll find what works for you. And some people perform great, like, oh, I've got 9 months. I'm going to work every little bit toward that goal, or I'm going to do it all toward the end because I work better under pressure.
So there are things that I had to outsource. So I'm, as I said, I'm a visual person. I knew what was in my ship, and then what I had to outsource in other ships. So I would do all of that multitasking. That those were going on, but things that I had to do, then I would just find the time, that creative energy, and then I would just keep writing. I was grateful for my mom also to be here during those process. So she took care of the kitchen and feeding me and my children, while I sometimes would be in my office just writing for hours and hours and not coming out. So I was grateful for that support and help as well.
Yeah. What does it feel like, though, to have created a product that you invest that much time and energy into, but you now have the ability to enjoy it and share it without having to focus on writing right now?
I love it. So I told my agent, and she would say this too, and also my publisher, for me, the most exciting phase for a cookbook is promoting and selling. And they were like, really? Because authors usually shy from that. I'm like, no, can I be done with this manuscript and design and all of this? Of course, all of that took time. We didn't cut corners anywhere, but I was really excited. When can I announce the cover? When can I start talking about it? When can I share? Because that is what's giving me the most excitement, this current phase that I am in, talking to you, having book signings, speaking with different groups. I'm also speaking with professional groups, having private events, public events. I'm loving this because I truly feel this book, needs to be in every home. that desires plant forward meals, vegetarian meals, or even I see it as a gift for future generations. I love it when I see Indian folks come to my book signing and they are buying one book, but by the time they leave, they buy two more. And that happened to me at New York. They said, I'm gifting it to my niece. My nephew was getting married because this is a great housewarming and great new bride or bridegroom gift for the home. I'm like, yes, that is the mission. Mission
100%.
accomplished.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So, what about a first-time cookbook writer that might be listening to this, Sapna? What advice do you have for them if they want to pitch their first cookbook, and how they develop their voice and their vision for what they want to create?
I would definitely say is that the one thing I would say is like, don't chase trends, chase truth. Because that is what worked for me. And also write the book only you can write. And we all have a book in us if we believe in it. And focus on, your authenticity and your own truth.
Yep.
And the rest will follow.
Yeah. So true. It's 100% true. And I believe we all do have a book in us. I think you're right, though. We have to really believe it. There has to be a part of our heart, a part of our soul that just says, I know that I can do this book. I know this is the book I'm supposed to write. And because without that I often equate it to like a pilot light in a kitchen, maybe with the gas stove. If that pilot light goes out, it won't happen. We have to keep, so that means nurturing things in our life that keeps that pilot light going, right? Like letting it always be glowing, taking care of ourselves, enjoying the process, enjoying our cooking, enjoying the people we connect with all throughout the process, everything from our community to our agents, our editors, the designers, the wonderful people at your publisher. It's really a journey of meeting lots of people, isn't it?
Yes. And like, don't focus on trends. Don't chase trends. Chase your truth and your voice, your stories, your flavor, your food matters.
Yep. 100%. So I would love for you to let us know how we can help support this book and the message that you're trying to share about the cuisine, the work that you're doing here with your book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that question, because the best way to support my book, especially as a first-time author, to support Dal Chawal, please talk about my book. Please, first of all, buy my book, talk about my book, share my book, tag my book, leave me an Amazon review, because even though I absolutely love independent booksellers. Leaving an Amazon review, first of all, you don't have to buy the book on Amazon. I learned recently to leave a review there. But every review helps in the searches and helps with the algorithm craziness that we all are living in. And cook from my book and tag me. Just kind of build the buzz around this book. So any little help would count. So that means a lot.
Yep. Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about how people can connect with you online to do all the tagging that we want to do.
So follow me on Instagram. That's my favorite social media platform. And my Instagram handle is be.spiced. So be.spiced.
Wonderful.
Yes. And my website is bespiced.com as well.
Very good. So something I like to ask all of my guests as we're wrapping up is, I know you have a large cookbook collection. You love cookbooks. And when we have just written one, we often think this is my favorite one, but I'm wondering if you had any other cookbooks that were influential or favorites of yours leading up to the point where we are today.
Sure. So I collect cookbooks. If you see behind me, I have tons of cookbooks. My first cookbook was, again, this person is not known in US for it's not a well-known name, but there was a lady called Tarla Dalal, and I would love everyone to know her name. I absolutely loved collecting her book. And what's especially inspiring is her story. And she began teaching cooking classes from her home in Mumbai, India, and went on to become India's most published cookbook author with over about 100 titles to her name. She was this an old, not an old when she's, whatever, but she reminded you of an auntie in her saris and in a very kind of accentic voice. She's from Gujarat. She was this Gujarati auntie. But her work wasn't just about recipes, it was about confidence. She was a home cook, and she empowered a generation of Indian women to enter the kitchen, not with fear, but with creativity. She was that OG culinary entrepreneur, and she was our Julia Child. And I brought her books. Every time I would go to India, I would bring, and her books are basic, but it was also the first books that I saw that had color photos on it. I think everyone should know about Tarla Dalal, even before they know about Mother Joffrey, I'm afraid. I mean, I love Mrs. Joffrey and her books, and I think she's the OG. Again, huge credit to her to introduce Indian cuisine to the Western world. So I love her, but also I love Tarla Dalal. And I'm looking around, I have at least about 15 to 20 books. They're not super big. They were hardcovers. They were colored photos. I loved her.
Yeah.
And she taught me how to cook. So when I was doing my research, I would look at her basic recipes, and they're very basic, very simply written. I loved it. So.
Yeah. Are any of those available on Amazon, do you think, that I might be able to link to them?
I don't know. That's a good question. They're definitely available in every bookstore in India.
Yeah. Well, what we can do is I'll communicate with you, and I'll drop some links in the show notes if they're available so that you can also.
Yeah,
and
then that's the author name. I've seen them at some libraries actually here.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, we'll link to all that in the show notes. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today, Sapna. It's been great to connect with you. I'm fascinated with what you said, that you are one of the few Ayurvedic books written by an Indian. I didn't really realize that. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, there are books written by Indian, but not your bestsellers.
Yeah.
Not your, So I love to be that I could contribute in that space as well.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I look forward to hearing more about what you're doing. Everybody sign up for I think you had a newsletter. I was following along, knew you were doing your book event. And I want you to have a great time while you're out promoting this, because it really is the best part, to meet all the people and to talk about this book that you've wanted for so long. And I can't thank you enough for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, and namaste.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. Again, all the links can be found in the show notes at www.cookbooklove.co. And if you are interested in writing a cookbook of your own, please check out the free cookbook writing masterclass called How to Get Paid to Write a Cookbook. It is designed specifically for food or nutrition experts, and you can check that out at www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/free. So that's it for today's episode of the Cookbook Love podcast. This is your host, Maggie Green. And until next time, have a great day and keep loving your cookbooks.
Thanks for listening to the Cookbook Love podcast. You can find out more information at www.cookbooklove.co.